Well, hello and welcome back to Expert Talks. Today, we're delving deeper into the topic of the best way to receive returns from the cryptoverse. And to do this, we're speaking with Devin Edwards, the founder and chief fund manager of KB Crypto, based out of Alberta, Canada. Devin strives to build a brand that is built on the bedrock of trust with an aim to weed out weaknesses from the cryptoverse. Devin, welcome again to Expert Talks here at Kalkine. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be on here. I love talking with you guys.
Well, we love chatting with you too. And we had a great chat last time we caught up with you. Now, for those who are just tuning in and who are unfamiliar, KB Crypto is a hedge fund that employs varied investment strategies with a view to deliver returns to its clients. The company uses its proprietary software besides channeling the expertise of its fund manager to deliver returns. The returns derived from these investments are distributed among the clients in proportion to their invested funds after deducting the fund management fee. And KB Crypto's actively managed fund derives variable returns from its trades and payouts to clients based on the tiers that they have opted for. Did I get that one right again there,
Yeah,
Devin? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
excellent. Well, I mean, it is a little bit for people to get their heads around at first, but one thing we can get our heads around is that the head office or the base essentially of KB Crypto is in the Bahamas, which sounds fantastic. But of course, there are multiple jurisdictions. So maybe you can start off by just telling us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are currently, registered. We're operating out of the Bahamas. Now, I myself, we're in Canada. And so a lot of times people ask like, okay, well, what's the purpose for that? And well, it all comes down to regulation, right? So we are doing our best. I mean, our absolutely best to get regulated here in Canada. It is
Mm.
very, very strict because of two things. Number one, we are an investment company, so that right there is it's high risk anyways, right? So there's lots of laws for the securities and commissions here. I'm in Alberta, and the governing body here is the Alberta Securities and Commission. It is very similar to ASIC in Australia, same exact thing, except Canada is really lacking when it comes to crypto regulation. So our governing body doesn't even know how to really regulate it. So there is another body in Canada that's kind of on a federal level, but it's not an official federal level. They are just it's like a volunteer type of governing body. It's called the IIROC. I
Mm-hmm.
forget exactly what that stands for, but
Mm-hmm.
they do their best to make sure that the consumers are protected. And so we've been talking with lawyers, and the goal right now is to, we have a company called KB Holdings,
Mm-hmm.
which is also called KB Capital, and that is what's going to be used for the regulation side of Canada. So we're in the process of just getting all of our ducks in a row
Mm.
to get regulated. It's a lot. It's set up in a way that it makes it really hard for a small company that does investments and crypto to be regulated. I mean, we have to have, you know, at least 2 million in the bank. We need to have someone that's on staff that has worked in the industry, investment industry for 5+ years.
Mm.
We need an auditor that is approved by them. They have to go through all of these things. So that's what we're trying to do right now. So in the meantime, we are, yeah, we're operating out of the Bahamas, but we are totally transparent in everything. So every investor
Yes.
that comes on board, we let them know like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to do, and everything that we do is verified. We're registered here in Canada as KB Holding. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just in the process.
Yes. Now, I mean, just off the back of that, from speaking with you last time, this is the part of your story that not everyone knows about, but you really kicked off this entire organization because you yourself had a personal experience with security, and it wasn't a positive experience, but it has brought the silver lining of bringing all of this about for you. Would you like to
Mm.
refresh that story for our viewers who are just tuning in and getting to know you?
Yeah, are you talking about the how I got defrauded? Is that
That's
what
the
you're referring
one.
to?
That is the
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to recap, I've told this before, but the reason I got into this is because I personally got scammed. You know, tens of thousands, about $20,000 worth of Bitcoin. And I even took out loans because this company that was promising high returns, high yields, they were basically doing a Ponzi scheme. So I
Mm,
convinced my wife to, get a loan, and we're just like, yeah, this is going to be great. Sent the money, or put it into an exchange, converted it, sent it in as Bitcoin,
mm,
and I even got other friends and family into it because I was
mhm.
getting paid out for a little bit. But when it came time for the big payout,
Yeah.
they started having technical issues. So long story short, we just it was just a really, really bad week, and I had to let everyone know that we got scammed, and it
Mm.
was not very fun.
I
So
can
yeah,
imagine. But I mean, as we were just saying, the silver lining of that is that you've now had a personal experience that you've learned from, and that has prompted you to be incredibly security conscious as you move forward with this project for your investors.
exactly. Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just kick off from where we did leave off last time. Um, as you seem to be an admirer of decentralized ledger, do you think large corporations, particularly those that have near monopoly in the market, do you think they're afraid of blockchain?
Yes, I do. We are
Okay.
going through, we're going, if I really hope like whoever the premier is of Alberta, or even if Justin Trudeau could listen to this, but we're going through such a hard time with banks in Canada. We were with multiple banks in the past couple months, and these banks have decided to shut down our bank accounts
Mm,
simply because we have said, or they can research us, and find out that we are dealing with crypto, right? And I'm just like, well, what the heck? Like, we
mm,
we need to have, a bank account to have operations, pay bills. It's not that money is coming in that's crypto. That's just we have to run, right?
yeah.
So there, all the banks here in Canada and mostly throughout the world, I believe, are just very afraid of high risk investments and anything dealing with crypto. So
Mm,
we're having to go, like, off seas with bank accounts and do other creative ways. So to answer your question, yes, I do believe that large corporations, if there are already exchanges out there that are big, like Binance and KuCoin and
mhm,
all the other ones, Coinbase, like those guys are okay because they're bringing in millions and millions of dollars, right? Well,
mm,
billions probably. But I do believe that there is a monopoly, but quite frankly, I know for a fact I follow Tether,
mhm,
USDT, and they are pretty well in the know. And I forget exactly what it's called, but it's CBDC that
mhm.
is going to come. That is the central bank digital currency. So, folks, that is on its way,
Okay.
and that is what's going to be the future, and most people will use that. So that's probably going to be the one world currency pretty soon.
Okay,
So
very
we'll
exciting. I
see.
love a little bit of a sneak peek, a little bit of an insight.
Hmm.
And now, Devin, in the last podcast, you talked about the inclusion of stable coins besides Bitcoin for KB crypto clients. So, would you say that Bitcoin and stablecoin are just two categories of digital assets, or is one actually more superior to the other in your view?
Um, yeah. So are you saying, like, what is the difference between stable coins and not stable coin, like Bitcoin?
I guess just which do you see has a greater strength?
Um, well, that's really interesting because this past week and a half, there's a story of Luna. So
Mhm,
UFT and Luna, they are two in the same, and that stable coin is called an algorithmic stable coin, and that failed. Its algorithm failed, which is really
mm,
bad. So $45 billion wiped out. I feel really bad for just all the people that
oh,
lost money
yeah.
on that. So with that being said, I still feel that Bitcoin is king right now. It still is the number one cryptocurrency. It is designed for decentralization, and not for anyone to control it. So I feel like Bitcoin will be number one for a very, very, very long time.
Hmm.
But when it comes to stable coins, I would say that second, I wouldn't say it's USDT. I wouldn't say it's USDC. I would say it's BUSD. So that's Binance
Mm,
US dollar.
mm,
The reason is because that is the only cryptocurrency that I know that is a stable coin that is backed by the US dollar one for one, and it is monitored and it has a company called Paxos that audits everything. It's almost like the KPMG of auditors, but for crypto.
mm.
And they yeah, they audit everything. So once I learned that, and I don't know why most people are using it, but we store a lot of our assets in BUSD. So and it's quick, you can send it back and forth. So
Mm.
there's some advantages. So yes, I would say more Bitcoin is still like king, but of course, obviously, if you want to convert it to stable coin, I would say BUSD is the best.
Excellent. Now, as we all know, anyone who's into investment knows the name Warren Buffett. Buffett seems more tilted towards S&P 500 stocks, and he's quite vocal that he isn't at all a crypto enthusiast. How do you look at this?
Well, we have to look at his generation, right?
Aha.
So I I did go there, but it is true, right? So he's kind of stuck in his ways, but he is right. He is right. The S&P 500 genuinely does outperform like if you put, you know, 25, 30, $30,000 in the S&P 500, it will make a return eventually, right?
Mm,
So I will say that he is right on that. However, we are getting into a new time period where cryptocurrency is going to become kind of like the new stock market in a way.
mhm.
Right now, it's just the Wild West. So I feel like you know we're still trying to figure out what to do with cryptocurrencies and whatnot. It's never going away. Like it will always be here.
Yes.
But I do feel like Warren Buffett, yeah, he's just that's how he made a lot of his money with the S&P 500. So he's an
Mhm.
old timer, right? I respect him,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is.
Sticking to what he knows. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've just really touched on this, but yeah, it's not going away anytime soon. So it's really about how do we integrate cryptos? And I note that Canada in the budget of 2022 has in fact included a new special section on cryptos. And that talked about reviewing digital assets to study their impact. If you were the person bringing this into government, what would you do, or how do you think it should be regulated so that the
Mm,
interests of stakeholders are preserved?
man, that's a good question.
Suddenly you're in government.
um, yeah. Man, that's a good one. I will say this. Bitcoin cryptocurrency is designed to not necessarily be regulated. That's the whole
Hmm.
purpose of cryptocurrency. Now,
Mm,
I understand the purpose of why they want to regulate it. Like I know that regulation is good, but to a certain degree, it's to protect people from fraud, right?
yeah.
Um, but it's basically a game of just cat and mouse, right? So they're gonna regulate it, but it's the people are still gonna find a way to defraud others. Like it's just
Mm,
gonna happen. Like as long as we're here on this earth, like people are always gonna defrauding. So to answer your question, if I were to be the one to kind of like be in government and regulate, I don't really know exactly how to answer that other than I would make it so that crypto is welcomed. Um, and there could possibly be, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, a cyber crypto, IT focus, because I have a background in IT of 20 plus
hmm.
years. There needs to be like, how there's like the FBI that kind of catches criminals and stuff like
Oh
that. But
yeah.
if there is a central crypto slash FBI, like all they do is they track crypto, right? So if there's fraud
Mm,
going on and someone gets frauded from an address, it literally will track because everything's mostly trackable online, depending on what crypto assets you're using. So they can follow the money trail pretty well, especially if it's being swapped out for other tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is just if there is a collaboration between all the exchanges, working with governments, not a government, but a central body that's used strictly to track thieves, right?
Yeah.
Not to monitor the citizens of the
Yeah.
world, then that's what I would do. I would put together a task force and say, this is what needs to be done. Um, to be very honest with you, I wouldn't want the government running that. I would
Mm-hmm.
want a private entity
Yeah.
running that, if that makes any
Independent.
sense. Yeah,
Absolutely.
independent.
Independent watchdog. I get it.
Yes, there you go. There you
And
go.
would you also suggest that there needs to be some greater public education and awareness around the risks involved for investors?
Yeah, I think that it should be taught like at a younger level, like
Mm.
junior high school, high school. They're gonna learn about it eventually, right?
Yeah,
So I
it's
feel like
inevitable.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, I really feel like it just should start being included in education, and yeah, just start from there and just start educating people. Like, hey, like don't just send money without you really doing due diligence of what's
Exactly.
going on, right? Because you can't do a chargeback
Yes.
for crypto, for sending
Yes.
crypto. Like once you send it, it is gone. So yeah.
Okay, just a quick look into Bitcoin in more detail now. Obviously, this year hasn't been a good year for Bitcoin. It grew very well in the preceding 2 years. But as an investment strategist, why would you say Bitcoin or even the wider stock market, including shares of Microsoft and Tesla, why are they down this year?
Well, the reason for that is history tends to repeat itself. Now, again, this is just my view.
Mm,
So we have to look to see what's happening. It's so weird. If you go back 100 years, what happened in 1918? Well, that was that Spanish flu,
hmm.
similar to COVID, wiped out tons of people, right? And then about 4 or 5 years later, excuse me. So what happened was the stock market was down, and it was down. It was good, and then it was down. And so I am seeing a pattern that history is repeating itself. So yes, the market is down only because history is repeating itself. And then around, I think 1922, 23, or 24, the Roaring Twenties is what it's called,
Mm,
started to pick up. And I believe that the exact same thing is going to happen. So we
ah,
may be in a little slump, but it will happen again, which leads to the next thing, which there will be a crash.
mhm,
100% there will be a stock market crash. Same thing happened in 19, was it 29, 28,
mhm.
with the Great Depression. I feel like the same thing is going to happen in 2028, 2029, 2030, somewhere around then. I don't know exactly, but somewhere within that 10-year time span. So it's just
I love
history.
it.
History
The
is repeating itself.
the Devin Edwards crystal ball. I think you could you could start advertising for that. Now, also just in your personal thoughts and ideas on this, what's your favorite variable return asset? Is it stocks, cryptos, commodities, or what? And especially when the markets are volatile or have the potential to be volatile as they are now.
Mhm. Well, here at KB Crypto, contrary to what we do, our name is KB Crypto, but we actually trade the stock market.
Hmm.
We only accept payment in crypto, like people deposit as an investment in crypto. And then what we do is we convert that to US dollar, and then we trade the market. So we connect, with forex brokers and stockbrokers, and then we trade the market. And then after that, we pay people out. But to answer your question, is I feel like it's more favorable with the stock market. Like as soon as that New York bell hits, it is just off to the races.
Mm,
Volatility is excellent for us. Like if the markets are volatile, like if when the war was happening,
mm,
or if like if back in the day when Donald Trump said something or whoever, and it would make the markets go crazy up and down.
hmm.
I feel like that's the best time to make money, is when people are panicking.
Mm.
So that's typically how hedge funds work. Yeah.
Okay, fascinating. Now, Devon, in the
Mhm.
last podcast when we spoke, you mentioned diversifying investments. is there some advice that you would give to invest in Canada, for example, in registered retirement savings plans and tax-free savings accounts, TFSAs?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
I feel as if RRSPs, or excuse me, yeah, RRSPs
Mm,
and tax-free savings accounts, they're good. They're a good introductory to getting a small return on your money. However, what those banks are doing is exactly what we do at KB Crypto. It's exactly what other hedge funds and other traders do. So the banks are just taking that money that you're putting into your RRSP, or if you're in the United States, 401k, whichever. And they're trading the market, right? So there's different
mm,
plans, there's like, aggressive, or like, just kind of like, very less intense. And I feel like the banks are making a lot of money with people's money and then giving a very small return.
hmm.
So what is
I
it?
think there'd be a lot
Like
of people out there agreeing with you, nodding their
one
heads right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like 1% APY. Sometimes with a savings account or with an RRSP, you
Hmm.
could watch it go up and then go down depending on what the market's doing. Like
Yeah.
you could literally watch your like life savings go down just because the
Mm,
market's down, right?
yes.
So I tell people, this is me personally. I don't put money into RSP. I put it into KB Crypto,
Hmm.
just because we really know how to churn out good returns. I mean, we're doing anywhere between 0.5% to 1.23% up to 4%. We hit 4% one week, which was really good. And
That's
that's an
exciting.
excellent return on your
Yeah.
money, right? So
Isn't
if
it?
you
Yes.
put in 200,000 or 300,000, whatever it is in your RSP, I would even love it if there is a way that we could just, talk to employers and say like, hey, here's a high risk option that you can give your employees. Like, this is, be aware of the risks, but the returns are really, really good, right? So
Hmm.
that's just me personally.
Brilliant. Well,
Yeah.
we've got time for one final question here, and I'd like to know your thoughts on inflation. How do you
Mhm.
see it impacting on the asset classes on a broader level, or even what's your strategy as far as hedging inflation is concerned?
Yeah. Well, I think it just goes back to KB Crypto. I feel like, there's a wise saying that if you have money, it's best to spread out your investments, right?
Hmm.
And one of those investments will stick. So the best way to me is to hedge against inflation is to obviously save your money, and then when you have a good portion, find multiple areas. I would say around 3 to 4 up to 7 different areas, and just start scattering your money in different investments, whether that's crypto, whether that's the stock market, commodities, mutual funds, preferably KB crypto.
Hmm.
That's where they're going to get the best return. But
Of
I,
course.
I just have to say that. But I will say that the best way is just be wise and spread out your investments, right? There's really there's really nothing there's nothing that you can do to really plan for it, because inflation's going to happen.
Hmm.
But the best thing to do is just to yeah, do your best to save.
Diversification is key in this case.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hmm.
Well, Devin Edwards from KB Crypto, that's unfortunately all we have time for today in Expert Talks. But once again, it's been an absolute joy chatting with you, and plenty more to keep an eye on with KB Crypto in the coming months. I certainly hope we get another chat with you again soon to see how things are progressing. Thank you again, Devin, for your time today.
Awesome, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Speak soon. And for those at home, thank you for joining us here at Expert Talks. And once again, we're inviting you to stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.